Hi guys, I wanted to put a little presentation together to share with everybody in the company what our experience at the Boston Seafood was like. I haven't done this since our last edition of Fish Notes, which is way back in the fall, but it seems appropriate to get back in the zone of sharing information about our company via video. I'm not going to do Fish Notes like I've done in the past. I'm going to include other people, and I don't know in what capacity, how often, or how much, but it is a great way of sharing the information that's going on all around us that maybe doesn't reach everybody. This way, I know people are getting the memo of what our company's up to. Anyway, it was a great trip, and I got a PowerPoint prepared for y'all. So without further ado, here we go. All right, so this is Seaview Crab Company goes north. The last Saturday through Tuesday, we were on the road checking out seafood up and down the Northeast, and it was an 1,800 plus mile trip from Wilmington to Washington D.C. We stopped at the wharf there, stopped to get a bite to eat in Baltimore, then went to another market in Philadelphia, then the Boston Seafood Show, then New York City. And all in all, it was 89 hours, 7 fishmongers, 1 SUV, lots of fish talking, grubbing, and moving seafood forward. So our first stop was for lunch, or not really lunch, but around lunchtime at the wharf in Washington, D.C. The wharf is a big seafood kind of mecca there in the capital, and it's got multiple displays, vendors, and fishmongers. Some of the things we noticed, they had huge bulk mounted displays, really pretty, really color coordinated, and very, mounded, like voluminous displays. They sold everything from salmon skeletons and fish heads to live crabs and crawfish. Um, it was all the staff, the fishmongers were very engaging. They weren't stalking us, but they were always eager to help and serve. Every time we'd walk to the counter, you'd have somebody meeting us saying, "Hey, how y'all doing? Can I help you?" All the time. And they all had different personalities, which is something I noticed and we all noticed. And we were offered a shucked sample before we even got in. The first display I saw someone say, "Hey, how you doing? You want to try an oyster?" That's the first thing we saw when we came up. And we saw mounds of shrimp, oysters, full crab displays in March, which is pretty impressive. 4 grades and sizes. We saw steamed crabs. They had soup available. We tried the soup. Wasn't the greatest, but they still had it there. They also had 1 to 2, 5, 10 pound pricing for seafood. That was another thing on all their tags. So it drew customers into buying more, at least know what it took to buy more. They also had clean crabs to show the roe to customers, because for a lot of people that like mixed crabs, they'll ask you if they're eggs. They like the eggs for the flavor and for soups and for everything else. So by being transparent and showing open oysters and open crabs, the customers can see what they're looking for. And so they were very transparent and very engaged with their fishmongering. Moving on to Philadelphia, we went to the Reading Terminal Market. And what we learned, we saw lots of people really excited about food. And this was a packed market with seafood, meats, cheeses, sweets, produce, and breads. And this is like a foodie kind of mecca. And they're one of our target markets in Wilmington, and we need to always work to attract more of them to us, because they're the people that are going to take our foods and be experimental and cook and try different recipes and really get into the flavor of that seafoods can provide. So one thing we noticed in the market, there's lots of prepared food, and that brings us to part of our company is we're working hard to get some sort of kitchen at our Marsteller location, so we can smoke our own fish, make soups, make crab cakes and dips. Which it will expand us into a larger seafood market share when you have prepared foods, and everybody knows that. And the Reading market just reaffirmed that you want to get more people eating seafood, we're going to have to cook for them a little bit. There are good and bad. There's only 3 fish markets there. There was one terrible market, one good market, and one great market. And we know that the one thing about this market is everything was packed real tight. So like anything else, they had a lot. They had more fish than we have packed into a tiny place. So yeah, that's one of the big things. They had big displays in tiny spaces, packed tight and full. They're all iced. Well, I mean, the bad market wasn't particularly the greatest, but the good markets were really They were well clean displays and properly, displayed upon ice, and they were very transparent about their catch locations, and some even had methods, so they would tell you where they caught it and how it was caught. So when you get into these city markets like this, it's competitive, especially when you have three markets in one place. The bad is gonna look really bad, and the good is gonna look really good, and that's one thing that we noticed for sure. This is a sidebar to seafood. Sean was our food guide for this trip. In advance, he had picked out locations along I-95 that we could, strategically, we could get off real quick and have an interesting bite to eat. And as you can see there, Chaps Pit Beef in Baltimore, Maryland it was off the chain. They had a bunch of people going through very fast, and they had excellent smoked meat that was cooked right in front of you. And that's a sandwich we had there. And yep, that's some macaroni and cheese on top of 3 meats. If you want to have any more experience on this, ask Sean. He'll tell you all about it. But it was bomb. We were all stuffed and feeling pretty good after that stop. Sean was always on a mock-up for anything and everything. One of his things was 7-Eleven hot dogs and Slurpees. Ask him about that too. John's Roast Pork was another place we stopped. Again, just little hole-in-the-wall joints. This was since 1930, and they were banging out subs quick, and they were good. Quick, simple, and good. And we're appreciative of Sean to getting us out there, else we would, who knows where we would have been eating on the road. But he was brought a nice, interesting stop to the journey. Okay, the next thing we did that we want to talk about is Stavis Seafood. And Stavis Seafood is where we get a lot of our frozen products that you see. But a little bit about the company. They've been an 85-year-old family business, started selling clams in Boston in 1930. And they've branched out to selling seafood worldwide and have a strict screening and verification process for all their global products. We buy our Prince Edward Island mussels, clams, tilapia, frozen tuna, mahi, swordfish, lobster tails, and more from them. And their facility and logistics processes were impressive. Their freezer stacks 6 pallets high, and they can fillet up to 20,000 pounds of salmon per day. And we toured the facility just because we like to, any opportunity we can see where our seafood is coming from. We took advantage of it. And some of the things that we saw and learned is they moved an extraordinary amount of seafood in a small space. Their facility, it was bigger than Marsteller, but not by that much when you think about actual square footage. It was a very clean and disciplined, transparent place. There was no odors. Everything had a place. And we saw 15 workers moving independently but in unison. And we had a floor manager and guides who were very cordial, direct, and eager to show us what made Stavis Seafood customer focused. They were really good tour guides, as well as kind of like conductors, if you will, of the back of the house. And we saw all of their computers, scales, and offices were all strategic and in smart places. And they had smart processes that allowed them to have big results in small places. They cleaned constantly and worked 2 shifts a day, from 6 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon, and from 10 in the evening till 6 in the morning to process their orders. And one interesting fact about Stavis is, even though they send tractor trailer loads and air freight across the country and probably the world, they also were like small vendor friendly. So you'd have a small little pickup truck that had a little cooler on the back that they'd service one-man shows that would maybe had a few customers in Boston or further on. So they were very customer centric and super organized and very efficient in how they worked. And it was an impressive workplace that is something that I wanted everyone to see, so we know where we want to go. Not to say we want to grow like Stavis or be like Stavis, but their actual work environment, the smartness and the discipline and the cleanliness of it all really made for a good compare and contrast. So the next thing we talked about is the Boston Seafood Show, and it's a huge facility. I think I can't remember how many people attend. It's like 26,000. I want to say it's crazy, but there's a lot of vendors. That number might be more than that. There is a lot of people at this show and a lot of seafood. As these pictures barely scratch the surface. That's a whole wolf fishing right up here, by the way. But you need to talk to individual guys that went to talk about their experiences, but I tried to summarize as best I can about what we all saw and observed while we were there. So these are my quick notes, and I know that this is small, so if anybody wants me to send this PowerPoint to them, I'll be happy to do that. Just email or just text me your email address, and I'll email you the PowerPoint. But to summarize, Sean spent time with multiple vendors, tasting, questioning, and absorbing his way to more seafood knowledge. And the end result is he wants to expand our smoked product line. He spent a lot of time with spice reps and sauce guys and to really increase our culinary acumen as fishmongers. So we're not just, hey, this is what's for sale, this is when it came in, but we can talk a little bit more about, some ways to complement the seafood with different spices, sauces, and cooking styles. He also spent some time trying to broker a wholesale contract with a salmon hot dog provider. We were all impressed by. So let's see if Sean's going to get in with this. Remains to be seen. They're not even in production yet, but I'm curious to see what happens with that. He also spent some time absorbing the sex appeal of the various seafood displays we studied. We studied a lot of seafood displays, and all I know is that it's an art form, and we need to always be challenging ourselves to get better at it. Kenny was there. This is a buyer's seafood heaven at the Boston Seafood Show, and so he was out on the beat talking to suppliers, and one of the best suppliers he talked to was a Gulf shrimp packer processor, Galat Seafood, established in 1930 from Mississippi, and they have very competitive pricing and a rich multi-generational history. We're going to be stocking their peeled and deveined shrimp. We just put a 2,000-pound order into them for our restaurant customers and our retail counters as well. They're going to be IQF Gulf domestic shrimp that'll be easy to make, so that people want just a quick deveined shrimp, they don't have to. We can have it for them. Kenny also made contacts with crab meat suppliers and other frozen seafood that will make us more competitive in the restaurant and retail game this summer. The trip reinforced our buying philosophy to always stay on our toes for new opportunities and suppliers. Zach spent some time soaking up the intricacies and sex appeal of the various seafood retail displays as well. I think, the transparency of open oysters and open crabs and more catch locations and catch method and really knowing the story of your products was something we were all impressed by, but especially Zach. Seafood display is a visual art, and we need to challenge ourselves to be good artists to get better every time we set up our fish displays and not get stagnant. And fishmongering is a performance art, and we should all aim to challenge ourselves with every shift to get better. At basically performing, and being the liaison between the wild product and our customers. He definitely wants to implement half-shell oysters for display and continue to offer free samples to our customers when we can. He also was intrigued by the wild king salmon and the peak production in summer and being able to offer that to our customers and kind of adding some international or domestic sustainable fisheries that when this peak season is there, we need to find out how to get those seafoods on our counter so we can offer, some of the bounty of American seafood on Wilmington counters. He also discovered a unique oyster growing method that he shared with Nathan in terms of ways that we might be able to improve our lease. Craig learned that a clean, labeled, organized back of the house makes for streamlined processes that are built for moving seafood quickly and effectively. At Stavis, eyes were all wide open because he was watching this. He does that at Marsteller, and so I think seeing a huge company really execute things cleanly and as a team was an intriguing experience for him. He liked the team-centered competitive work environment, helps to get everyone involved in the process of making us the best damn market on the East Coast. We got to be competitive. We need to know that, we need to challenge ourselves to be better, not rest on just this is how we do it and it's another day at the fish house. We need to always be thinking, how can we do this smarter, faster, and easier? He also learned that awareness is an important part of a safe, effective workplace. So you have to be able to do your detailed work, whether it's making sure you get all the scales off of a fish or cleaning, sink down to the details, but also be able to zoom out and say, hey man, we need to pick up the pace, or we need to look at this from a bird's eye view so we don't get lost in the details. Lastly, he was relayed to me that he learned that leadership is not about telling people what to do. It's about serving people so they can do their jobs better and have fun doing it. So the floor leaders, when they were giving us their tour, they didn't have a bunch of people coming up and asking what to do next. They were working busy as hell, and that floor guy was just there to to basically talk to us and help facilitate those workers to get the best out of their work day. So leadership isn't about telling, it's about serving the people around you. I combined Sam, Nathan, and myself into one. And what we learned, and this is Nathan's probably like fourth or fifth time there. It's my second and Sam's second or third. I'm not sure. So we've had some experience at the Boston Seafood Show. But one thing we learned, we have a dynamic group of leaders whose sum total is more than their parts. When you spend 7 hours, or excuse me, when you spend over 24 hours in the car with 7 dudes, you learn a little bit about teamwork and how people relate to each other and get along. And I realized, we have very different personalities that complement each other well. We also learned that the seafood world is huge, but North Carolina still has the best variety of fresh fish, shrimp, crabs, and oysters. We get North Atlantic fish, South Atlantic fish. We have huge sounds and a multiplicity of rivers to nourish our stocks. It's a big seafood world, but we are one of the epicenters here in North Carolina. The Boston Seafood Show always humbles us to realize that we are always on a path to discover what we do not yet know. You know that in the seafood world, you're never going to know all the information. You have to be a lifetime student of the seafood world. We are moving seafood forward with our teamwork and integrity, service, and diverse line of local, domestic, and international delicacies. But we need to increase our appetite for wholesale and retail customers to share our culture and products. So we need more customers to grow, and that means we need more wholesale sales. We need to encourage more people to eat seafood, and hopefully in the years to, months, maybe years to come, we can get some prepared foods in here. But we need to be hungry for more. And that's because we want to share, not because we want to make more sales at bottom line profit. That's part of the game. But we want to be hungry to share seafood and what we're all about with other people. And when you're considering that appetite, we must remember that an ounce of generosity equals a pound of sales. Everywhere we went, people were generous and kind. And samples, smiles, and service that goes the extra mile are the most important pieces to that puzzle. Generosity is the compass to where we're going. We have to keep that in mind. We can never get to the point where we think we're it, and they got to come to us. So they want the good stuff. It's not about that. It's about sharing and finding ways to connect with people so we can share seafood and who we are as a company. In the end, seafood work isn't easy. We all know that, but it is rewarding. And in our internal culture, our point guards or our wholesale salespeople must have thick skin. You got to have big smiles and big ears to listen to the diverse needs of customers. It's not easy to work in the sales game, but it's a very rewarding thing because you open up people's eyes to the food, the wild food and farm food around them. Forwards, the forward industry, and that's everything from a fish cutter right on up to a floor manager in the back. But forwards have to always protect and promote our product, our logistics, and our presentation so that our point guard and salespeople can shine. That's why we have the point guard forward system, because there's got to be people that are setting things up, that are assisting, that are packing ice, packing orders, keeping inventories, labeling, and you have to have people to connect with the outside world with seafood. And so these two parts of the process have to actively listen to each other. So we got to be active listener to your teammates and have each other's backs, so that's the only way we're going to move seafood forward, is that those two parts of the puzzle work together at high levels and at the most base level. Another interesting topic is aquaculture, and there's hands down not enough wild fish to feed the demand for seafood. As more people eat seafood and as regulations get smarter, we're going to have less and less, access to actually getting wild fish. So we need to educate ourselves on farm fish. And understanding that it's an evolving industry, that each year it gets better and more environmentally friendly and more of a viable gap to the chicken, pork, and beef industry. And it is our task to educate ourselves about farm seafood and share what we learn with our customers so they can accept and trust and enjoy it. And don't wait for this information to come from us or from people other than you. Get on the internet and find, because you'll see debates about farm salmon, farm tilapia, but we work to try to make sure we get the best of the best, and we're always trying to harness new ways of growing fish. And it's going to be part of the future, and it's going to continue to get better and more environmentally friendly. And so we need to be a part of that process. Alongside that, oyster farms and oyster brands are well represented in the show. They're trendy. Not only do they represent all things good from the economy to the environment, they're also heavily demanded. So we need to challenge ourselves and continue to build an oyster salesmanship. And just like different types of wine, the subtleties in oysters make them interesting. And it's what's going on in the world today. So, and we have an oyster lease, so we need to become oyster professionals, that we know how to talk about the different qualities of these little shellfish. That it's more than size, meatiness, and saltiness. So we need to become better experts. So that's pretty much wraps up the Boston Seafood Show, and we went on to New York City, which at this point in the trip we were all about a little bit weary and a little bit crazy. And so it was an experience in New York City. We got in around 8:30, found a subway, or excuse me, found a hotel, and then we went out and hit the streets. And I'll let Sean tell you about some of his experiences. He had some interesting ones. We all did, really. It was a pretty crazy night, but I didn't make it out. Kenny and myself went back to the hotel, but Zach and Nathan and Craig and Sean soldiered on to Fulton's Fish Market, and they risked their lives. They took the subway at 3 in the morning, 3 in the morning, and then walked 25 minutes in the Bronx to get to the market, and they weren't scared. But they, just like Fulton's Fish Market's a huge warehouse with multiple wholesale vendors where trucks and planes deliver seafood from all over the world, so that markets from Philadelphia, or excuse me, markets from throughout the Northeast come to Fulton's to buy their seafood for their restaurants and seafood establishments. So there was fish stacked across the world, lining this warehouse, and they made it back to the hotel by 5 a.m. We're back on the road to Wilmington by 10. So if these guys are dragging at all during the week, you know, have their backs, because they were working on limited sleep coming into the work week. All in all, in the end, I put here riding the lightning, and despite we were all some at various levels of sickness, and we're all still getting through sickness. Kenny's sick as hell today, but we had a lack of sleep and sickness in the car, but we were still hard charging, driving in treacherous situation that we got to thank Sean for. He was a hell of a driver in city traffic. He impressed the hell out of me, but. There was foul odors and 7 dudes packed into one car, and no one lost their patience, and we served Seaview Crab Company well. In the end, it was a team effort getting this much experience packed into 4 days. I asked these guys questions. They experienced a lot, and I'm sure they'll be happy to share what they saw and what the new perspectives they have on the seafood world. It was a great trip. It was a tiring trip, and I'm still recovering myself, but we learned a lot and really grew quite well as a team. And so I have nothing but gratitude for these guys, and more so for Seaview Crab Company. And we got a lot going on. We're getting ready to go into summer like we always do, but we're going to push forward these next 2 months to get ready for the summer season. And I've got a few things I want to pass in this round of PowerPoint or fish notes, whatever you want to call it. And let me go to that real quick. Hold on. So we're going to start back doing fish notes. I'm not sure how often and what capacity, but stay tuned on your cell phones. I'll do it like I always had, text you a YouTube link. We're going to go to a monthly schedule, and I'll put that out for April schedule 1 week in advance, but I need your April request off to Sean or Craig by next Sunday. You can also text them to me if you want to know. We're also planning a spring company get-together. So if y'all have any ideas about what we could do, please let me know. I want to do something. I just haven't got it. I'm going to get some feedbacks from other people how we can do that. And then spring is here. So it's kind of just like came out of nowhere this week. We've had some beautiful weather, and we've got crawfish in the house. So we're going to have crawfish through June. And we're trying to get as many pre-orders as we can. So let people know we get it in every Wednesday. And we have bulk pricing. If people pre-order, we can do $4.50 a pound on the crawfish. If they buy by the bag, they have to buy by the bag. We can't break it up. But we're going to try to promote that, be the #1 crawfish dealer around here through the summer. So let's be on it. Soft shells will be coming online either sometime in April or May. And the black and red grouper season opens May 1st. And then once that hits, once the grouper season opens up, we're going to have all kinds of fish coming in, and local fish will be back in action, and the spring movement of fish is on. We're still looking on the lookout for shad roe. Hopefully we'll get some in here next week. But anyway, this about leads us to a conclusion. But I'm stoked to move forward, and I think we've got a lot of great things happening coming down on the line. And so, yeah, let's get ready. Let's get stoked, because there's a lot of seafood coming your way. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.